In this video, we're going to give you some tips and tricks of how to create text. Of course, when you're creating text, it's always the most challenging. And this was a design that was sent to a customer, and she asked me to touch it up a bit. And what I decided to do is once I can see what she's looking to do here, I decided rather than modify what she has already, I would just start anew. But having even just a basic idea of what a customer is looking for in basic shapes, we can translate this into a file here pretty quickly and easily using EasyStone if we understand the techniques. Now, of course, the problem with this file is the stone spacing is not consistent. You can see that this spacing is narrower than these two. So, we want it to be really nice and concise. So here's what I did. I took one row of stones, pulled it over here, and looked to see how many of those. So that P had 19 stones. This D had 20. So we'll go with 20. So what I would do is just pull over one stone. She wants these stones to be SS16, and I believe she's using WinPC sign, but don't quote me on that. So her stone size isn't really set properly for SS16 stones. So we'll set that first. You can see, so our stone size is 4.8. And then what we'll do is we'll come to the stone tab, and we will do steps, and we'll do 19 steps vertically. Now when you do that, if you select this vertical row of stones, you'll see that we do in fact have 20 objects, just like our original D had. So now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and take that. We know we want a 4-row font, so we'll offset, offset, offset. So what we have here is we have perfect spacing, 0.5 millimeter spacing vertically, and we have perfect spacing horizontally. So we have a really nice result here. Now back over here, we can use this original D just for a shape. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to grab my 3-point curve tool, and I'm going to draw out half a curve. We're just getting that basic shape from what she had sent me, and then we're going to pull it over here, and we'll use it over here. So we'll switch over here to our pick tool. We'll put it right there at the center of the stone. I'm then going to flip this and move this right here to the center of this one. Of course, now we have to bridge this gap, so I'll just use a 2-point line tool for this. Okay, so now that we have those in place, we're going to select all of those, come to the editing tab, and join paths. So now we have one path. Now we do have these 2 extra nodes here, but I'm just going to grab a node here and delete these 2 in the middle. So you can see now it's nice and rounded, right? So now the next thing, of course, is we know that we need 4 rows of stone. Perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this line, come over here to our stone fill tab, and we're going to offset 3 times because we already have 1. And we're going to right click, and that will offset to the outside. Then we get this menagerie. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take this, and I'm just going to move it over here. It'll just be easier. These stones won't interfere with what we're going to do here. So what I want to do is I want to just show you what we're going to do. We're going to take these 2, hold our shift key, these 2, break at nodes. And we're going to do that for each ring. So there's 3 rings here. We're going to do that one. We're going to do that one, break at nodes. One more ring, this one, this one, break at nodes. Okay? So now we can get rid of the outside lines because we don't need those anymore. This was our original line right there, and we don't need these little end caps. And then what I'm going to do here, see that node right there? I'm just going to double click. See that one's right there? Double click. This one is right there. Double click. Up here, same thing. Just cut those back to where that node is placed for us. Okay, all that happens automatically. There's no magic there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select those lines, and we're going to add some stones. So now that we have those, I can position those right into place here. I'm going to shift page down, push those to the bottom, And now we have all of our stones in place. Okay, so now what we're going to do, now if you look real close here, see this path? It's not quite lining up to the center of this stone. So we're just going to pull each path back a little bit. See, just pull it right back to the center. Make sure each one of these is hitting right there on the center. We know that one is. Same thing down here. And because these stones are applied to a path, as we move this end of the path back, the stones will all shift backwards as well. Right to center. All right. So now you see what we have. Let's go ahead and delete our stones. Now we have, let's go ahead and check our spacing because we do have a few overlaps. But now we have our perfect D already in place. You can see all those stones looking really perfect. All right, so now we have all those in place. Let's go ahead and use a similar procedure for our letter P. So we'll copy these over. And again, we're going to get this basic shape from the original. So we'll just kind of get a basic shape from the original. She's trying to match an existing design. So it needs to be pretty darn close. Not exact, but it needs to be close. All right, so now we have kind of a rough draft here. So we'll go ahead and place this right there. We want this to end spot on right there. Now you can see here, this is a little bit wonky. So what I usually do to smooth this out is add a node on either side. And then delete in the middle, and that smooths it out. Either side. We already have this one from the previous one. That will help smooth it out. And one more. So now that's smooth. So now let's see if the same technique that we use for our D will work for our P. So let's go ahead and try it. Let's go to the stone fill, 3 offsets. Right click to the outside. Let's select all of this, move it over, and let's do the same technique. Double click, see if we can't grab those 4 nodes right there. Break at nodes. Next line in, same thing. You got to be careful when you're making your selections that we're only affecting this first line here. So let's break at nodes separately. Select those 2, break at nodes. Same thing here, break at nodes. Same thing here, break at nodes. Okay, so now we know we can delete the outside just like we did with our letter D. We can delete our end caps. Now we got to do a little shave. We're going to shave back to there, to there, to there, to there, to there, to there. All right. Now, what we can do is we can add some stones. So now we've added the stones, and now let's reposition. So from the center of stone to center of stone, we're going to push, shift page down, push it to the back, and then, of course, we're going to come in here, and we're going to move the end point of this line dead center. All 3, top and bottom. End point of the line, dead center. End point of the line, dead center. Here, we're just going to add a node and then pull this in right to that point. Same thing here. We're going to stretch this out to here. And same thing here. Pull that like so. All right, so now you can see if we delete our stone paths, we're going to check our spacing. Found there is, so there is our let's see, what has it got? Yeah, our SP and our D. Okay, so there's our S and our D is already in place. So now we want to look at C. Well, C we're going to do a little bit different. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my top most stone on my D, my bottom most stone. I'm going to come into Easy Guides and go select each object, create a center horizontal line for me. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the whole D, come back into easy guides and do a center horizontal because I need the center point as well. Now here's what we're going to do here. We're going to take this and we're going to take the bottom of this C and put it right there on that guideline. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab my 3-point curve, and just like before, I'm going to create a curve, and I'm going to manipulate this with my shape tool because I need this to be right down there. Something kind of like that. We have the basic shape of our original C, but now we're going to use it over here. Now, the reason I did it this way is because our C is basically symmetrical. So I can, once I have this half, I want it to be very, very similar at the top. So we'll go ahead, we'll go back to our editing, we'll join our paths. You can see here, it doesn't look exactly correct, so we're going to add a node on either side about the same distance, same position. Delete that node. Now we have a nice smooth C. So now we're going to use the same technique that we've been using. We're going to go to the Stone tab. We're going to go to 3 offsets. We're going to right click on Island Fill. That will create all of our various offsets. And then I'm going to select these nodes, break at nodes, double click again, select those 2, break at nodes, and just keep going here. So we're going to select that one. We want to be careful. We don't want to select that outside one. So be careful when you're making your node selections that you're only working with one path at a time. So sometimes you have to be a little bit creative how you make your node selections. But you have to work with each path independently. Double click. That takes us into our shape tool. Anytime we double click a shape, it takes us into our shape tool. So we'll go ahead and delete these outside lines because we know we don't need these. We know we don't need the end caps, and we need to trim each path back. Okay, so now we've trimmed each one of those back, and now we're going to go ahead and add stones. And we've added our stones, and now we're going to delete our stone paths. We're going to check for any overlapping stones. There are none in this case. So now we have our letter C in place. Alright, so we're making some good headway here. So now comes the trickiest part of the entire design, and that is the bloody S. There's certain letters in the alphabet that are a little bit more tricky, but if you understand what you're doing, it's really not any more complicated than anything else. So let's show you what we're going to do here. We have something to go by, which is nice. So what we're going to do is grab our 3-point curve tool and just kind of guesstimate. We just need a rough something. Okay, so it's really nice that we have this rough draft available because it makes it a little bit easier to get this all laid out. Alright, so now there's our rough draft. Let's pull this over and see what the kind of mess we got going here. So you can see it is a bit rough. So let's just double click on it and right click and choose smooth. Sometimes you can smooth out. See, this is a little bit weird right there. We can smooth that out. Now what I'm going to do is I want this to just be a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to pull this away, and I'm just going to try and make some minor changes here. Right click, see if we can, that's already smooth. So we'll right click, choose smooth there. So this is good enough. You can see there is our letter S. Now watch what happens when we offset 3 times. So we'll go back, same technique we've been using. 3-time offset, right click on Island Fill to offset. Notice what's happening here. This line right here is going to be stoned, and it should be pretty darn close to the top. You see it's off just a skosh. So what I do is I just go ahead and pull this up just a pinch and try it again. We want that line to be right there at that guideline. You can see it's just a little bit off down here. It's a little bit off down there. So because it's off pretty much the same on both ends, it'll be fine. Okay, so just like before, we're going to trim off our end caps, break at nodes, right here. Trim off the end cap, break at nodes for each one. So just come in here, select both of these nodes, break at node, find the other side over here. We're going to bust this end cap off. Sometimes you get those weird error messages, and that's okay. And I know why I got that, because I had too much stuff selected. Break at nodes. So anytime you get those weird error messages, especially with break at nodes, means we got too darn much selected there. So we've got to be a little bit careful when you select those nodes. But now we've busted off all those end caps, so let's delete them because we don't need them. And let's, of course, delete our outside lines because we don't need it. And then we need to do our trim, just like before. Right? We've seen that. Down here, same thing. We're just trimming it back to that node there. And now we can apply our stones. So now we'll go ahead and apply our stones. And look at there. We can delete our stone paths. And you know what? Sometimes, I don't know, sometimes you're looking at, I don't know, sometimes I'll flip it vertically and horizontally and say, hey, I like that S better. Whatever you want to do. You know, it's entirely up to you. But there is our lettering. So let's go ahead and throw a weed box around there. Let's go ahead and get rid of our guidelines. Let's go ahead and add a watermark, simulate the stones, all that fun stuff. There we go. And then let's go ahead and do a check spacing. And there we go. How cool is that? So yeah, we spent about 15 minutes in doing that. And yes, we did have something to go by, which was quite helpful, as you could see. That enabled us to kind of recreate, but it's certainly easier to recreate than to try and manipulate and, you know, all these stones and so on and so forth. And you just have a much cleaner end result. So hopefully that gives you some pointers when you are working with text. There's some different ways to go about it. To create whatever it is you want to create, and that's just kind of a different way. So hopefully you learned something and can apply it to your own particular task. Thanks for watching.